This is my mom, Shonda Velasek. She graduated from Rangeview High School in Aurora, Colorado in 1987. She was on the Pom Squad there and loved performing at all of the games. She also loved going to school dances. We all know the stuff about the 80s, like Izod polos with the double collar popped, Swatch watches, neon, mesh, big hair, baggy pants, leg warmers, and big hoop earrings. My mom participated in all of those things. Plus, who could forget Prince, Michael Jackson, and Madonna, my mom's favorite. She loved Madonna so much that my mom thought of her as an idol. She listened to those three the most because she had numerous prom routines to Prince. And she listened to Michael Jackson every time she was in the car with her brother. And she hated heavy metal. A couple of popular TV shows were Cheers, Family Ties, Growing Pains, The Cosby Show, and The Facts of Life, my mom's favorite. However, she didn't watch too much TV because she liked having space from her family, and to watch TV, she would have to be around her family. We all love the classic 80s movies, like Grease. My mom actually wasn't allowed to see Grease then, but she saw it anyways without her mom's permission. Breakfast Club, Dirty Dancing, Back to the Future, the Rocky series, 16 Candles, and Top Gun. But enough about 80s pop culture. So much of that continued to our generation through our parents, so we are very familiar with it. There are a lot more important things that went on during the 80s that maybe our parents only remember bits and pieces of. Important events that went on in the 80s were the AIDS crisis, Operation Desert Storm, affirmative action, the Challenger, women's rights movements, and the fall of the Berlin Wall. My mom knew about the AIDS crisis, but her information wasn't the most accurate because she just heard about it at school. However, it worked as great birth control. Doctors began recognizing rare cancers that destroyed immune systems in young gay men. It became known as AIDS, acquired immune deficiency. Society was struck with fear as the cases of AIDS increased. Everyone was afraid of acquiring the disease. Operation Desert Storm was at the end of the 80s, in August of 1990. Saddam Hussein, the dictator of Iraq, ordered his army across the border into tiny Kuwait. Kuwait was a major supplier of oil to the United States, and with Kuwait, Iraq would control 1/5 of the world's oil supply. In the last month of 1990, the United States participated in the defense of Saudi Arabia in a deployment known as Operation Desert Shield. Over 500,000 American troops were placed in Saudi Arabia in case of an Iraqi attack. January 15th came and went with no response from the Iraqis. The next night, Operation Desert Shield became known as Operation Desert Storm, bombing Iraq's military targets for the next several weeks. Iraq responded by launching missiles at American military barracks in Saudi Arabia and Israel. On February 24th, American ground troops declared Kuwait liberated just 100 hours after the ground attack was initiated. My mom was student teaching at the time, and as a history teacher, she even taught about Operation Desert Storm in her classes. This was very important to my family because my grandma and my mom were both very concerned about my uncle, that he may get deployed with Operation Desert Storm. Thankfully, he didn't. At that time, President George Bush was in office. He followed Ronald Reagan. On January 20th, 1981, Reagan took office. Only 69 days later, he was shot by a would-be assassin, but he quickly recovered and returned back to duty. My mom remembers when he was shot. She was in 6th grade on spring break, and everyone was really scared, especially my grandma. Reagan had new ideas on taxes that appeared to be very successful. His taxes eliminated many deductions and exempted millions of people with low incomes. Therefore, at the end of his administration, the nation had its longest recorded period of peacetime prosperity without recession or depression. My mom's family loved Reagan because they struggled financially, because my grandma was a single mother. One of Reagan's main goals was to improve relations with the Soviet Union. In meetings with Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev, he negotiated a treaty that would eliminate intermediate-range nuclear missiles. These talks helped to eventually lead to the fall of the Berlin Wall on November 9, 1989. All my mom remembers was that everyone was so excited and even took pieces of the wall. Affirmative action began in the 80s. It was created to prevent discrimination in the selection processes such as hiring and college acceptance. Affirmative action laws made schools and companies select a certain amount of people from each race to avoid discrimination. My mom does not remember anything involving affirmative action because she wasn't around minorities very much. Another hot topic my mom doesn't remember much is women's rights. However, my grandma, as a single mother, had very strong feelings about women's rights and equal payment. Selena Quintanilla Perez was a singer that inspired many women to get out there and fulfill their dreams because she went and fulfilled hers by going to school, learning English, and even went to college and took business classes. The Challenger was a space shuttle that exploded on January 28, 1986. Many people watched this explosion happen on TV, and tragedy struck the country. My mom was very sad when this happened. She even cried. One of her teachers was a finalist to be on the Challenger, and that was very hard for him to deal with. Since Rangeview was a pretty new school, they had TVs in the school, unlike numerous schools at that time. So the whole school watched the funeral for the 7 astronauts killed in the Challenger's accident. The 80s were a time of changes, rebellion, and development. The country had some struggles, but it also was a time of prosperity. My mom is a great example of these changes by being the first one in her whole family to graduate college in 1990. The events and culture my mom experienced throughout the 80s helped to shape my mom into the successful woman she is today.